Welcome to my tutorial on how to make emotes using only the brushes that can be found in Clip Studio Paint. For starters, I'm adding a new canvas. The emote I'm making needs to be 112 pixels by 112 pixels, so I'm using a canvas that's 224 pixels. I'm starting to sketch an emote. Emotes should have a rounder shape than your other art. I make emotes that have very round eyes, and the tips of the lashes are also very round because from far away they look cuter and more cartoony, and anything that looks more realistic and has smaller lines or sharper edges won't show up very well and might disappear when you look at them from afar, and emotes are seen very small, so they need to be very bold and distinct. I'm using the G pin, which is the first pin that you find in the list of pins on Clip Studio Paint. It's the brush that I'm going to be using for most of the tutorial. One of the most important things about making a dynamic looking emote is having an emote that has very big eyes, because they're the easiest thing to see from far away. The eyes are bigger, the mouth is bigger, and usually the nose is smaller. And the nose isn't very detailed, it usually just has one or two lines that make it up. I also like to add little lines for indicating blush, even though I add blush later, because it helps the blush to be seen from further away. I'm starting to do the line art. I start my line art in red because it helps you to be less stiff, and you really want fluid, curvy line art for emotes. So I'm still using the G pen. I'm using the G pen for all of the line art, and I'm using a red color, and I'm going to add a layer on top of it and clip it to the line art layer, and then paint bucket in black to check and see how it's going to actually look. When lining the hair, don't try to add in the individual strands or too many extra flyaway strands, because the further you zoom out, the more those flyaway strands are going to disappear, and it's just going to look like fuzziness next to the emote. So you kind of want to keep the hair in one shape, like one smooth shape. Here I am paint bucketing in the black color so you can check and see how much the line art stands out. And once I added the black color, I could tell that parts of the hair were too thin, so I just went back and rounded them out and added more ink to those sections. I'm doing the flat colors for my emote. I recommend picking colors that are more saturated rather than less saturated so that they're easier to see from far away and on a black background, because most websites that use emotes have dark mode and most users prefer dark mode. So it's very important that your emotes stand out on a black background. I'm going in and cleaning up all the edges and making sure there's no transparencies, because transparencies don't show up in emotes. Anything that's transparent will automatically be given a background color to it, and underneath it, it will look whiter, or on certain platforms, it'll look darker, and that'll mess with your colors. So make sure everything on your emote is opaque. Also, for the black of the hair and for the white of the eyes, you don't want to do stark black or stark white. You want to do an off-white for the eyes and a navy blue type of color for the hair. For the blush and the bottom lip, I use the soft airbrush just to airbrush the color on top of the skin. I've added another layer on top of the line art and clipped it to the line art so I can start coloring the line art. Emotes look better when they have colored line art surrounding the skin. You don't have to color the line art on everything. I advise leaving the line art for the eyes completely black, and then doing the line art around the skin in a color that's a few shades darker than the skin and completely saturated. Also, for the eyes, you don't want to do a black pupil, because from far away, you're just going to see the black and it's not going to show very well. So you usually want to do a pupil that's just a darker color of the iris. I added another layer above everything and clipped it to the folder that contained my color layers and set it to multiply. I paint bucketed in a saturated cool tone, so I used a purple, and I used the airbrush to erase the middle of it and make it blurrier so that when I start erasing lines into it, it'll have more of a rounded shape, because emotes are supposed to be very round and bubbly, so the head will look rounder if the edges of the shading are softer. It's easiest to tell if your shading is effective when checking against different background colors. When I make emotes, I recommend having 3 layers below everything that is just a white layer, a black layer, and a 50% gray layer, so that you can check for If your shading looks dull, or if your colors look dull, or if there's transparencies that you couldn't see on a white background that you can now see on a black background. I'm adding a highlight layer above the multiply layer, and I'm setting it to glow. I use the same color that I used for shading to add highlights to the nose, cheeks, lips, and eyes. Highlighting is very important on emotes since most people will see it on a very dark background. I'm also adding a highlight layer for the hair. I use the airbrush to airbrush in lines on the hair, and then I used a hard eraser to erase half circle shapes into the lines for a very thick, cartoony, highlighted look. You really don't want to do anything too detailed with the hair because it'll all blend together when you zoom out. I also softened up the edges of the shading again with the airbrush set to transparent color. I then added all of the layers of the emote to one folder. Above the layers, you can see that there's a tab that says Layer Property. When you click that, you can add a border to the outside of a folder, which gives you a nice crisp white border that makes your emote stand out very well against black backgrounds. Most websites require multiple sizes for emotes, so Clip Studio Paint's option to save duplicates makes it very easy to save a lot of sizes of emotes back to back. And you can also scale your emotes by percentage. So most websites need 3 different sizes of an emote, and they're all 50% sizes. So you can scale down your emote by 50% every time and have the correct size. Thank you for watching my tutorial. I hope it was helpful, and if it was, feel free to follow me on Twitter or Instagram so you can see more of my tutorials in picture form. Have fun making your emotes. Bye!